Good morning. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. It's 7 o'clock. Little snowy day in Western New York. Decided to stay home today, not to brave the ice and snow, to be safe. I'd like to start off today's meeting with a pledge to the flag. Please rise in the room. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I am also the inspirator today, and my inspiration came from Katie Orr's email. I had another one prepared, but I got more inspired by her end of her email, so I'm going to read that. May your day be touched with a bit of luck, brightened by a song in your heart, and warmed with smiles by the people you love. Celtic blessing. Thank you, Katie, for sharing that. I wanted to call on all members to invite new members to the forefront of our club here. So we always want to build more members. Our goals are going forward in regards to education, but we do need some new members. I would like to ask Beth Banks if she'd want to talk about dues. Beth, are you there?
Sure.
Well, after our officers meeting last night, I went on the international site and only to find out that, the directions have changed. And if I send you an invoice, it will look different than it looked before because we've upgraded. I still have work to do on how to make sure that people get invoices. So we'll work on that, Gerald. Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to give people the heads up that it's coming their way. We did meet as officers the other day. We're doing some committee work, exploring locations, and it's in the committee right now. So we have some people that have some action items, and stay tuned in the future. You'll hear what the results of that committee work is as we have to move from the YWCA if you haven't heard. But not immediate. We have a little time. We appreciate them hosting us, certainly. We do have a few guests, I think, today, at least one. Mokulis. Mokulis is one of our guests, one of our former Toastmasters, DTM. Are you on, Mokulis? Say hello.
His voice is gone now.
Oh, he was.
Oh, did he leave? Okay. I stand corrected. Apparently he is no longer on. Hopefully he'll pop back in later. At this point in the meeting, I'd like to turn it over to the Toastmaster, Jackie Kenny. Round of applause, please.
Mr. President. Welcome. Morning. I think we have probably more people on Zoom. So we'll get right into the theme and our jobs. You all know I have a large job. What you might not know is that she's way past her sell-by date. She is a Saint Bernard Newfoundland, and both of those breeds live to be 8 to 10 years old.
I didn't notice. They live to be 8 to 10 years old, but Maeve is 16. She's had a nice life and enjoyed it, but life is getting harder and harder. She wears a harness now that has straps on it, so we have handles to help her get up when she's having a problem. And she takes arthritis medicine, just like I do. So if you have a dog who has enriched your life, or another pet that you're very fond of, maybe you could include a word or two about them this morning when you come up to speak. Let's get right into our job holders. And the first one is Word Master. Len Thornton, do you have a word for us this morning?
Yes, Madam Toastmaster, I do indeed have a word. Today's word of the day is empathy. Empathy, E-M-P-A-T-H-Y. It's the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. Empathy.
Thank you. Nice word. Very good word. Empathy. So we're all going to use that this morning, and even more, we're all going to make sure that we're feeling it all the time for everyone else. Our master grammarian is Mike Florio, who is here in the room this morning. And Mike, tell us about your job.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our possible guest, I'm not really sure. Before I start, I'll just tell you about the job. Anyways, to begin with, I believe the master this morning. I will be counting those ahs, ums, pregnant pauses, and as grammarian, I will be maybe struggling through trying to think of something that I could write down on the list because I'm not the best grammarian. But you wanted to talk about dogs, right? And I wanted to talk about my buddy too, my buddy Leo. And Leo was the best. Leo's a golden retriever and had a sister Ellie. And Leo was my buddy, and he had a rough time and he made it. They don't last very long either. Golden retrievers, they last to maybe about 11 years old, maybe. And that's about how long Leo lasted. And I remember building a ramp for him in the back because like your dog, he couldn't move as well and had a tough time getting up the stairs, but he was my best good buddy, Leo, and I miss him a lot. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mike. Now we have Jason, I think, is probably online being quiz master, or I'm sorry, being quote master.
Yeah, I'm on. Yep.
Okay. Can you
Yeah.
talk about what you have for us this morning?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Actually, I have two quotes today. The first one is, life becomes easier when you learn to accept an apology you never got, by Robert Brodt. And the second one is, the truth is, unless you let go, unless you forgive yourself, unless you forgive the situation, unless you realize that the situation is over, you cannot move forward. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jason. Words of wisdom. Our jester this morning is Mark Crane, and Mark Crane is in the room. Mark, come on up here and give us a laugh this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome everyone here that made it through the winter weather we're having this morning, a little brush with the winter. And you folks at home. As Jester, I did write some things down because I didn't want to forget my very poor jokes this morning. And I have great empathy for you for having to hear these things. What is a dog's favorite city? Favorite city. Its favorite city. New Yorkie. Wah, wah, wah. What happens when a dog eats only garlic? Well, his bark is definitely worse than its bite. What do you call a dog that's a magician? Well, that's not, that's very good. I'll have to write that one down. A Labrador cadabrador. Terrible. What do you call a cat that has great parties? Great parties. The Great Gatsby. That's terrible. Well, what do you call a cat's favorite? A well-read cat. What is her favorite book? Of course, it's Mice and Men. And why is it so hard to find an apartment to rent? It never has the right clause. Oh. Those are my boners from the morning. Sorry about that. Take care.
Thank you, Mark. Nice to start the day with a chuckle. Our quiz master is Anne Marie Lenhart, and she is online this morning. Anne Marie, do you want to tell us about your job?
Yes, good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Nice to be back and see all of your smiling faces on this cold, wintry, blustery day. I will be testing your listening skills and your memory skills, and there will be a test in the end. So please try to be as attentive as you can. You might want to take notes because I'm sure everybody is going to want to get an A+. I'm going to have 10 different questions. So just so you're aware. Animals, I could talk forever, and I don't want to take up the whole hour and a half, but my husband and I did breed Irish setters years ago. And my 3 champions were Kelly, Rosa, and Bella. And they're just incredible dogs. They have this dark mahogany fur and feathers on their stomach and a knowledge bump, and just incredible animals. The word empathy really relates to animals because concern, warmth, caring, just a wonderful addition. I'm sure everybody would agree if they have a lovable animal in their life. And today we really have cats instead of dogs. My husband got sick of doing the walks and they just take a whole bunch of care. So my champion today is Simon. He's an orange male cat. And when I asked the vet, what kind of cat should I get? He said they're the brightest and also the most affectionate. And he's right, because Simon's 2 years old now and he's a champion. He is great at listening and establishing rapport. He meows, he talks, he's affectionate. He's always on either my lap or my husband's lap. And he's just a great addition to our family. I love him very much. So for all the animal lovers out there, actually, if you're not an animal lover, I don't trust you, because I think that people that don't like animals and don't share their homes with them are not as empathetic. So hello to all the wonderful Toastmasters that love animals out there. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Anne Marie. All right. Our timer this morning is Mark Campos, who is also online. Mark, tell us about your job.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, good morning. Important stuff first. We are the proud owners of a soon-to-be 13-year-old chocolate lab, Layla. She turns 13 on February 23rd. She's the third Labrador Retriever we've owned since we've been in our house over the last 27 years. She's a sweetie. She is very gray. We jokingly call her Rafiki. If you picture the character from The Lion King with the gray beard, that's what she looks like. But she will set a new record for us. Our last 2 only lived to 12, so she keeps plugging along. And sometimes she needs assistance too with the harness. But my job as timer today is to just keep us on the straight and narrow time-wise. As a reminder, table topics are 1.5 to 2 minutes with a 15-second buffer. Speeches are typically 5 to 7 minutes unless you tell me otherwise, with a 30-second buffer, and evaluations 2 to 3 minutes, also with a 30-second buffer. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark. Nice to hear these stories about people's feelings for their animals and how they cherish them. As I said, Maeve is 16. She was 16 in December. And I found a chart online one day that gave equivalence, you know, the 7 years thing. It's not really correct. The size of the dog has a lot to do with how they age and where they are. And I think she was about 123 when I looked her up on this chart. So it's interesting to see the smaller breeds have longer lifespans normally, and also age differently, much differently than the larger breeds. So she's kind of unusual that she's managed to live this long. All right. Our general evaluator is going to be Sylvia Baptiste, and she is in the room this morning. Sylvia, come on up.
I have two furry four-legged grandchildren. Nyla, who Josh brought home, my youngest son brought home. She was a rescue. She's half Pomeranian and Dachshund. Cutest thing, but a mean little SOB sometimes. We clash at times. But I love her. And then there's Shadow, the cat that has a personality like my oldest son, very calm and loving, and she's a teenager now, so we have fun. This morning, my job, I had the privilege of evaluating DMT, right? That's DTM. My initials are bad. I'm dyslexic this morning. Jackie, and the three evaluators that we have Kate Ort, we have David Licata, and Phil Russell, and I'll report at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. And now we come to table topics. In the room, we have Sylvia, Marty, Mark Crane, Beth, Kate Orr, Steve Smith, Mike Florio, David Licata, myself, and Len Thornton on the controls. So our table topics master can look at all the little squares online and with those names know who he has to call on. Our table topics master is Thomas Heldwine, and I happen to know that he's the proud parent of a very large and interesting cat. So Thomas, would you like to take over and give us some empathetic table topics this morning? Thomas.
Yes, thank you, Madam Toastmaster. What a nice subject. I always love talking about my cats. I'm not a dog person, never have been. Cats have their very distinct personalities. Dogs all kind of have the same kind of personality of just running around and doing their own thing. Not as smart as cats. Cats can learn a lot of things. My cat right now, the Maine Coon, is Lady Ripley, and she does a lot of things like humans. She tries to eat with her hands. She will talk to you when she wants to have attention, and she loves to snuggle, just snuggle up with you. So she's great. I'm amazed she hasn't jumped up yet. Normally she does and interfere. I looked at everyone in the room and they all seem to have a little square. Then I looked online and almost everyone had a square. So it's kind of strange, but I was wondering if Eric is available. He's got his image up, but I'm not sure if he's able to talk this morning. All right. Hopefully some people are going to have some empathy for me. At this point, is anyone there? Does anyone not have a role that wants to speak? This is like one of the toughest parts of this job is finding the people. And unfortunately, everyone has a job. So what I'm gonna do is double people up.
Mark volunteered.
I didn't.
Mark, in the back? All right, well, while he comes up, empathy is the word of the day, and I'll remind the contestants that they need to use the word empathy in their speech.
Oh, thank you, Tom.
Okay, and so my question for you relating to our pets and caring is, what is the sweetest or nicest thing you've ever seen an animal do for a human being? Someone you may know, or maybe it's an online story.
Well,
Everyone, Mark.
thank you, Tom. For those of you at home and in the room, my best friend, and surely was my best friend, was my dog Maya. And we had to put her down in September of this year. And it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. But the greatest thing she ever did for me was to teach me how to have unconditional love. And I thought that I knew some people in my life that were like that, but not always family and friends. They go so far, but with an animal, I couldn't believe her. When I was in the hospital last year for such a long period of time, my wife would go out and walk her, and they would see a truck go by that looked like mine, and it almost pulled her arm out of her socket when she was on the leash. And when I did come home from the hospital, she practically tore through the door of the car I was in the driveway. And for the longest time after that, she would lay on the couch. I mean, she was all over me for several days. And then she would lay on the couch and she just had this somber look about her. It was like, is he really here? Is he going to go away? And when I would take my naps, because I'm retired now, I take my naps, she would be there. When we went to bed at night, she slept between my wife and I. And when my wife would get ready to go to work in the morning, she'd lean in and try to give me a kiss goodbye, and she would growl at her. And she goes, "What's that all about?" I feed her and I walk her, and I said, "She's my mate, huh? I'm with her all day." And she was my best friend. And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Eric was able to park his car, I hear. So Eric, if you could unmute yourself. Good morning. All right, so we're talking about our pets, empathy, and apologizing to the story was her apologizing to her dog because he's getting old and she has to do a lot for him. Have you ever had to do anything for an animal where you took care of them? And when you're ready, please remember to use the word of the day, empathy. Eric Snyder, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to emphasize that I did had a dog. I had a beagle. We named him Zim, and I can't remember why we named him Zim, but we're talking 2004, 2005, and we took care of him. And I would like to make this on the for the record that I didn't know that that dog was going to be my responsibility. And you know, I really emphasize that I took care of him, but not as much as I would have had done. And I regretted that because after like about a couple years, we took him to the shelter and had to give him away, and that I emphasize, I really did regret on like not having to have a dog in the house. But I've have loved dogs, like with Kate's dog Doc. I love Doc. Doc's one of my favorite dogs, and he loves to snuggle. He always wins. I'm like, okay, Doc, yes, nice. It's okay, give me like he just make me feel comfortable, just helps me relax, and that I enjoy. So I've loved taking care of dogs, and if I would love to spend more time with my dog that I had, I would love to have taken care of him more. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much, Eric. Have a safe drive wherever you're going. I'm going to call on our inspiration holder. They did text me and tell me that they would like to do a second job. That would be our president, Dr. Stevens. We heard a story of how we care for an animal, how an animal has helped us. Have you ever seen or know a story about two animals where they help each other? Dr. Gerald Stevens, please remember to use the word of the day, empathy.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Animals do have empathy for one another at times. Have I ever heard a story of one helping another? I feel like I've heard stories on the web of different animals helping different species, strangely. I can tell you that I've heard of dolphins helping humans. That is not another animal, or is it? We are all animals. I'll call it that as a victory in regards to your question. They come out and help people, divers and whatnot that are in distress, and it's actually saved some lives, which is pretty cool. Dogs definitely have helped humans, saved human lives. Some dogs are so loyal that they actually go to people's graves, and they'll smell the grave and just sit on the grave. They are very empathetic. And I love dogs. Certainly, I've had a number of them over the years growing up. I do not currently have any dogs. For ease of taking care, we had a cat. His name is Al. He's an orange tabby. He considers me Mr. Food. So when I come in the door, he wants to eat no matter what time of day it is, because he knows I'm the guy that delivers the food. Other than that, he has actually not much interest in me at all, strangely. But for my wife, definitely. My wife is like my wife's cat. And we had to give up the cat to my daughters because they have their own place, and often one of them is not home, so they felt very lonely. They're roommates. So we gave up Al, but we do get to visit Al from time to time. So during the Christmas blizzard, we had 4 days of fun with Al. And in the end, that's all we can ask. Everybody's happy. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you for stepping up and taking on a second role this morning. Appreciate it. With that, I'm going to go ahead and go over to Mark first and ask for a timers report to see how our 3 speakers did. Mark, how did they do?
Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, all 3 contestants qualified. Mark at 2:05, Eric at 1:50, and Gerald right on the nose at 2 minutes. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Mark. Our second report comes from our word master of the day, and that is Leo Thornton. Leo, how did our speakers do today?
Leo? You can call
Leonard.
me Len, you can call me,
Len.
Len, but you doesn't have to call me Johnson. That's for you, David. During table topics, I was asleep for Mark. Mark, did you use the word empathy? You did. Excellent. Then all three of our table topics contestants used the word empathy today and are eligible for the voting. And the online poll will be up shortly.
Thank you
Right.
very much, Len. And thank you, Thomas. We really enjoyed the table topics this morning. So now everyone cast your ballot for whichever story tickled your fancy. And we'll move on to the speaking portion. I know empathy was always a big quality in Maeve. She's a big dog and very affectionate. She leans in and you feel the weight of her when she wants to greet you. She's always there when someone needs somebody to hug or a shoulder to cry on. And she has proved her worth. When Kevin was failing and ended up in hospice, we brought Maeve along with us every day. And we'd walk in and she'd start charging down the hall to his room, but people would come out of the other rooms. They'd sit on the floor and hug her and talk to her, and she'd kind of soak up their feelings. You could see her giving them a little bit of comfort without, being trained to do that or trying in any way. It was just comforting for people to have an animal that they could hold on to for a few minutes and talk to. So she was a very popular girl while we were at hospice. I've had cats. When I was a kid, my brothers got to have the dog. So I had a cat named Brenda. Brenda used to wear a t-shirt and a kerchief and ride in my baby buggy. So animals have always been part of my life and I've enjoyed most of them. I didn't like the rabbits as much as the dogs and cats, but I think all of us have our favorites. All right, we have 3 speeches this morning, and I'd like to hear from Kate, who is going to be evaluating Steve's speech this morning. Tell us a little bit about what he's doing, Kate.
Happy to. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Steve is speaking from the path, engaging humor. We love hearing his style. He's on the level 2 project, Know Your Sense of Humor, Mr. Timer, 5 to 7 minutes. The purpose of this project is to begin developing a collection of humorous stories and to present a speech that includes humor. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. You have it.
All right, Steve, are you ready for us this morning? I know we're going to hear something good because you enjoy giving us a little bit of humor whenever you have the chance. So this morning, we're going to hear from Steve Smith, who might be having a splitting headache. A splitting headache, Steve Smith.
Thank you. Now, I've burnt wood out in my garage as long as I can remember. I say garage, it's a garage slash man cave slash bar. And as I say, I've always burnt wood out there, which means I spent the better part of my adult life working in wood, cutting it, stacking it, splitting it. And I've always enjoyed this, which might be a little sick, but I enjoy the work. I find it therapeutic to go out and run a chainsaw and destroy things. And I've never had a problem getting wood. We own a little over 3 acres down there. And there's trees on that that need to come out. There's a big wood behind us, and the people that own that allow us to go in there and take out anything that is dropped or that they want out. And there's always friends and neighbors who have a tree that has fallen, something they want taken out. And that's a win-win because I get the wood. That's all I want. They get their yard cleaned up. They don't have to spend a ton of money. The only thing is I have to know my limitations. I'm not going to take out a tree near power lines or near your house because I don't have the equipment or the training to do that. So other than that, yeah, I'll take anything I can get my hands on, and I have, and it's been good. Well, for the past few years, a few factors have conspired to get me a lot of wood. Number one is the fact there's a lot more ash wood to be had right now because of a little, cute little thing called the emerald ash borer on my own property as well as all over. And the second thing was the fact that a few years back, we bought a loader backhoe, which means that we can handle wood that few people can and get it down there. Now, the other thing, and I didn't put in my notes, the other source is that we have a relationship with a tree cutting outfit. And whenever they're in our area cutting a tree, we usually get a truckload of wood from them, as well as the chips, which started this. She's got a massive pile down in back of wood chips that we use to mulch everything. So that's a win-win situation. Well, this may come as a shock to you, but I'm not 20 years old anymore. So a couple years ago, I broke down and bought a log splitter. I thought this is one of my better investments. So we didn't just run out and get one. We did our research. We looked at quite a few of them, picked out what we thought was a good model. And the first year, it was great because I run the living out of it. And it was doing a great job. And I could work up wood a lot faster with this thing. And I did. So far, so good. Well, the trouble started early last spring when I decided it was time to go out and split some wood again. And the splitter said, no, you ain't either. But what's going on here? This splitter just refused to start. And I said, what the heck is wrong, or something like that. Well, the fact of the matter is I found out it's still under warranty. Well, that means now I got to find an authorized dealer to look at this. Well, I did. And that's when the trouble really started. I called the guy up and said, look, I got to have this log splitter. Log splitter? I'm up to my ears in lawnmowers. Everybody wants their lawnmower prep for spring. I said, there's snow on the ground. Yeah, well, they want them prep now. Called me back in a few weeks. Well, I kept doing this. A few weeks, there's always an excuse. Can't get it in. Can't get it in. I'm backlogged. Now it's getting to be about June. And I call him again. He says, well, who in the world splits wood in the summertime? I said, hey, I started calling you last winter about this. Don't be telling me that. Well, you're still backlogged. So this goes on. And of course, I had to put that to the side because this summer I have many other things to do. Well, a month or so ago, I decided I got to get this thing going because that pile of wood is not getting any smaller out there. Okay. I call him up. He says, bring it on over. Well, okay, fine. Good. I'm going to get it fixed. Wrong. I haul it over there and he said, oh, it's probably just a gummed up carburetor. Well, do what you got to do. It's still under warranty. And then he says, well, let me look into it. And he pulls it apart. He calls me up. I cleaned up the carburetor, but there's more wrong with it. Oh, yeah? Well, apparently there was a exhaust belt was stuck. And I have to authorize him. Well, yeah, fix it. And he calls me up a few days later. Well, we got a few more problems. What? Well, we pulled it apart. The head is shot. The piston looks bad. Everything's all rusty inside. Well, I said, how did this all happen? Well, it got water in it. Well, how the devil did it get water in it? Well, they couldn't tell me. I'm thinking, well, maybe the deer must have got in it and done it down there. I don't know, because it's a fairly tightly sealed unit. I couldn't understand this. And he finally told me, well, you know, this whole thing is shot. I says, okay. And he said, oh, by the way, the warranty doesn't cover this. What? Well, they determined that the water got in there. So the water did all the damage, and they're not responsible for that. So now I got to put a whole new engine in this thing. And that's where I am right now. I'm waiting for a new engine to show up for this thing and put that in. And I have no idea what all this is going to cost me when it gets all said and done. And I got to wonder, will this thing have a warranty on it? Stay tuned. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Steve. Our next speaker is going to be Marty Johnston. And Marty's evaluator is David Licata. David, tell us about Marty's speech, please.
Good morning. It's my privilege to evaluate Marty Johnson, who pays close attention to being a Toastmaster. He's very good about the assignments. So I'm looking forward to this. And by the way, you don't have to call him Johnson. You can call him MJ, whatever. But don't call him Leo. All right, he is in the path of dynamic leadership. The purpose of the project this morning is for the member to learn about different styles of negotiation and getting things done. The purpose of the speech is for the member to share some aspects of how to negotiate and how to lead. And I have his title. Well, I'm gonna defer to Jackie because I know it's good for me. Oh, and one thing, I do have two pets. I have a dog named Paul, and he's a Dalmatian. He's with the fire department now. And I have a cat named Mike, and Margot found out that I had a cat, so Mike's at the winery. Thank you.
David, how about time?
Here, I'm sorry. Oh, God, I'm sorry. What do you say, Marty? What, oh, how about 5 to 7? Thank you.
Thank you, David. And now we're going to hear from Marty Johnston, who is going to tell us about negotiating, as David said. And his speech is, we all like to win, which is so true. Marty Johnston, we all like to win.
Maybe this way. This way, this. That should be good.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Mike? I screwed up recently. Now I have to negotiate. How many of you have ever had to negotiate? Okay. Long story short, I recently had a lapse. I have a lot of lapses. That's memory lapse, auto insurance lapse. I had auto insurance lapse this time. Oh no. So I have one member here, Kate, that understands where I'm going with this. So I am in the process of negotiating a new auto insurance carrier. And I can either go with the little green guy, the gecko, or the big moose from Hartford, or Statue of Liberty, be on my side. Oh, I'm in the process right now, and I found that there are 3 keys to my negotiating in this process. And the 3 keys are narrowing down the carriers, because as you well know, there are many insurance carriers, people looking for your money, you know, and they're in demand. When you're driving a car, you need insurance. So narrowing down the carrier, coming to a compromise, which is part of the negotiating style or strategy, as compromise. That's the main strategy that I'm focusing on for the project. And coming to an agreement on price. So I'm going to start off with narrowing down the carriers. I have done a little bit of research, and I haven't finalized my carrier yet. I have 2 weeks, so time is of the essence right now. So narrowing down the carriers, I have some prospective quotes from Liberty, Hartford, through the AARP, American Association of Retired People. And many of you know you don't have to be retired to belong to ARP. So narrowing down the carriers, I'm in the process right now of doing that. And I called a couple places. And just so you know, if you ever have to do this, make sure that you're paid up on whatever credit you do owe, because I actually was denied insurance because I had some outstanding credit. But I paid that off, so I should be good to go now. The second key in my strategy for negotiating is going to be to come to some type of compromise. And I'm going to be straight up and honest with these people when I talk to them, from the Hartford and Geico and Liberty Insurance, I'm going to let them know, I need your help. We need to compromise. And what I did, I have a spreadsheet from my past carrier. I made a spreadsheet. And on the spreadsheet, it lists your coverages, the limits, and the price, each line price. And what I'm going to do for each of those companies, when I have them on the phone or when I'm on the internet, on the computer, I'm going to record right next to the other quote from my current carrier, so it'll be easy to see at a glance. And I'm going to do that with those 3 or 4, maybe even 5 carriers if I can find more. But I need to come to a compromise. And as I said, I'm going to be honest with them and I'm going to let them know, I need your help. You know, can you compromise a little here or a little there? And it's a learning process for me. And I'm just starting to understand what the limits are. And I looked at one of my old quotes from my current carrier and I couldn't believe it. For the same, I don't know if it's due to inflation, but it seemed like they raised it $20 or $30 and the limits are the same, but the price of that line item went up like 20 or 30, maybe even $40. So I have to keep that in mind. So definitely have to come to a compromise. And last but not least is narrowing down the price. And, you know, they say in business, price, like in real estate, you know, it's location, location, location. Well, for me, and it's common sense, you know, if the limits are the same and the coverages are the same, you're going to go with a higher price or a lower price. I'm going to go with the lower price. It's right on the advertisements from Liberty and Geico and these other companies. They say they compare. You could save $500 a year if you go with us, and it lists the 4 or 5 different, you know, your savings if you go with them. And that's what I'm in the process of doing. And I'm definitely going to report back when I'm finished in another project. And I'm looking forward to using the tools. There's another spreadsheet that Pathways has, and it's to prepare yourself for negotiating. And it lists, where do you stand now? How are you going to, what is your negotiating strategy? So you're thinking about this, so you're not on the phone or online and you're hesitant. You're going to make a decision. You know where you're going, in other words. You have a goal. And that's what one of the other forms that was on Pathways I printed out, I'm using. It's another little worksheet to help me keep everything organized and in line. Well, fellow Toastmasters, if you ever have to negotiate for insurance, I suggest that you check this project out that I'm working on, or get a hold of me and hopefully I could help you. But who knows, maybe next time I come in, I might have a little green friend on my shoulder. I might be carrying part of the Statue of Liberty, or I might be walking in with the moose from Mutual of Omaha, or who knows. But until then, wish me luck on my negotiating, Madam Toastmaster, and I hope that they have some empathy with me too, because I'm going to need it. Thank you. Thank you. Turn this on.
That's mine.
That's yours.
Yeah.
You need to stand? Thank you.
Yeah. Not that she's challenged height-wise, but. All right. Our next evaluator is online. Phil Russell, can you tell us a little bit about Beth's project this morning?
There I go. I put myself. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, let's start off with the important thing is, do you apologize to your dog? Yes, I do. Because I get angry with her. And does she have empathy? Oh, yes, she does. This dog, Autumn, is part Jack Russell. She's perfect because she's that side is our Irish. The other side, however, is a pain, the English Yorkshire Terrier. But overall, she's a terrier. Now, I know she has empathy because she's been following me around. She knows I have something wrong. And so she follows me. The problem is she's 13 years old and she doesn't know where, 15 years old, exactly where she is. So she's between my feet. And it is not a good idea to be a 12-pound dog and be around size 15 shoes. Not good at all. Now, she also likes to rearrange for her furniture. She has 3 beds in 3 different rooms. And I trip over them all the time because she had the one with the rug and the 3 blankets. They're all over the place. You never know what you're walking into. So in our dogs, I have been known to have dogs pretty much all my life, and they are the joy of your life. They are wonderful. So I enjoy it very much. Now, let's get to the job at hand. Beth Banks, PM1. That means Presentation Mastery Level 1. She is working in the Pathways Presentation Mastery. Level 3 is an elective. Now, in this, she's going to ask us to look, I talked to her last night, look for something new about her, something you didn't know. Because the purpose of this project is for the member to practice the skills needed to connect with an unfamiliar audience. We're familiar with her. So her job is to do an unfamiliar topic. And that's going to be, so when you're done at the end of the meeting, you might mention to her, look, this is what I knew I learned, or what I saw in you that I didn't know before. And that's what I'm going to be looking for. The member completing this project, practicing the skills needed to connect with an unfamiliar audience. To do this, the member presents a topic that is new or unfamiliar to your club members. So I'm going to be listening for anything new and unexpected. The time of the speech is 5 to 7 minutes. Madam Toastmaster, do you have the topic? Because it's very interesting and I caught my eye as soon as I saw it.
I do, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Beth this morning. All right, let's have Beth come up and give us her speech about the Nutty Professor. The Nutty Professor, Beth Banks.
Let's get started. Mission today, it's to teach you something new. Something maybe you're not that familiar with. We're going into the realm of mathematics. Don't groan too much. I know that not everyone, oops, not working. Oh, the other way. Okay. I know that not everyone is into mathematics. I went back to school for a master's in mathematics education. That is where I met the Nutty Professor. My advisor at the time, Jerry Rising, told me, you do need to take one class from Steve Brown, because on your final exam for your master's, there will be a question from Steve Brown. To get a master's in math education at UB at the time, you didn't do a thesis, you took a final exam. Okay, I'll sign up for a class from Steve Brown. I looked at the curriculum. Oh, this looks interesting. Different ways of solving problems. I thought that would be very appropriate for my career. I really wanted to teach middle school math, but it's a good idea to look at them differently. Okay, so we'll go on to that. Sounds good to me. We began to look at the expression x squared minus 1. That's yeah, nope. One more back. Yeah, no, you're right. This the first one. Yep. X squared minus 1. Okay. Well, let's look a little review first. How many of you looked at multiplication in terms of geometry when you were being taught in elementary school? memorize facts. Well, in reality, multiplication is geometry. A 2 by 7, 2 times 7 equals 14. Isn't that a much easier way to look at it? 2 times 7. Count all the little squares. 14. Same idea when we're looking at x squared minus 1, because x squared minus 1 can be factored to minus 1 times x plus 1. Okay, a little unfamiliar. Well, if you look at the rectangle here, x plus 1 is along the top, x minus 1 is along the side. What is x times x? You may have forgotten this. X times x is x squared. 1 times x is 1x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Oh, all the pieces are filled out. So what do you have? Well, if you have a 1x and a minus 1x, they cancel each other out. So you end up with x squared minus 1. Okay, that's an interesting way to look at it. In this class, we split up into groups. We had to find different ways of looking at x squared minus 1. Each group was charged with that task. Same expression. Okay, so another way of looking at x squared minus 1 is to take that x squared square and take the minus 1 little square out of it, because you're subtracting 1 square. Oh, okay, that makes sense. People had to come up with all these different versions. I was a little bit confused at one point and decided I should go visit Dr. Brown in his office and get some advice. And so I went to his office. I knocked on the door. Mr. Brown, come in. Whoosh! This thing came at me along the wire, because apparently in Mr. Brown's office, if you opened the door, it triggered the little thing coming down the wire to attack you. I was singularly not impressed. I'm trying to get help, and I got this whack job in front of me. I don't know what he's going to do next. Okay. I'm not very amused at this point. Okay. I got a little advice. Didn't feel like I got that much. Looking for a little more professionalism. It didn't really feel like I got it. Another example of the nutty professor. Class one day. He's telling us about his wife getting a wonderful award. And oh, this is great. We're going to an awards dinner tonight. And I looked at him, he was not wearing a suit. I'm sorry, but in those days, if you go to an awards dinner, men wore suits. Oh no, he had this crumply flannel shirt on, corduroys. Okay, midway through the class, he stops the whole class. He looks at one guy and he says, you there. Can I borrow your tie? Guy just, there was quite a pause in the class. Kind of looked at him. No, really, I would need to borrow your tie tonight for this awards dinner. Okay, the guy took his tie off and gave it to him. Me, I'm sitting there going, I would not have done that. Okay, so he wore, that tie had multiple colors in it, none of which matched anything he had on. Looked terrible, but he was going to wear this. The poor tie target took him weeks to get this tie back. Weeks. Oh, yes, Mom. But he was a bit of a nutty professor. Did you learn something new? Did you ever take algebra? How many in here took algebra? Did you look at x squared minus 1 that way? Do you remember that at all? So the nutty professor did teach me something that I could use. I'll go along with that. Do you want to go further? What if we took x squared minus 1 and we made it into an equation and we set it equal to y? What's that going to look like? Oh, another variable. Oh, we can make a parabola. How many of you want to make a parabola? No one is raising their hands. People out in Zoom land, are you raising your hands? Do you want? Sure, the nutty professor could help you. Madam Toastmaster. Oh, I do have, that's the end of my speech, but we wanted to talk about animals. I've had an animal, I think, all my life. I've had some rather goofy ones. Okay, my little Zoe was a rescue dog, and little Zoe weighed maybe 6 pounds soaking wet. Little white, we finally decided she was part poodle, part maybe Pomeranian, because the largest thing on Zoe's body was her ears. And she looked like a little teeny dog Dumbo, like the ears were so high. But she was such a cute little dog. She was really a good dog. Cats, we seem to attract eyeballs. Cat that decided it was fun to play in the snow, fun to get on my back whenever I did gardening. Just seemed to attract the crazies, but they did have a lot of empathy for us. They really show that and love that. So they're a world of their own. Yes, they are. And I never did see the time of the picture, so I have no idea.
You can't share screen and have another face on there as well. Zoom doesn't let us do that.
All right. There we go. Thank you, Beth. I don't know that I really need the lift, but our first evaluator might need the lift. Let's have a timer's report on all of our speakers, please, Mr. Timer.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, Steve qualified at 5:39, Marty qualified at 6:26. And did I hear correctly that Beth could not see me on the screen?
She could not.
Okay, so technically she was over at 7:47, but I'm inclined to qualify her because also there was a point early in the speech where Len interrupted her to try to get the microphone working. So I think she should qualify unless someone has a philosophical issue with that.
If they do, I'm overriding them and I'm going with your idea. And
All right.
since
Well, thank you, Mom. It's settled. All three qualified.
So please cast your ballots for Steve, Marty, or Beth. And then we will move right into our evaluation portion. There's the ballot on the screen. Everybody, make sure you cast your ballot. And I'm going to call up our first evaluator, Kate Orr. Kate, please come forward.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and thank you especially, Steve. You did bring us humor today. I loved so much of your speech. I don't know the last time I evaluated you. This is an honor. I feel like it has been a time. From the title on, very punny title. I love how you present. I love your storytelling skills. That is something you excel at. And at first I thought, oh, when you started this path, well, you're already funny. Why are you doing this? But you can always improve. And I started paying attention, looking at this path, how very much involved you need to be aware of your own humor and how to reach others with that humor. So I looked at the path a bit more, and you're making progress. I love that. We've been talking the last few weeks a lot about keeping going and take another chapter and how can we get better in all different ways. And so I applaud you for this because it's something you already excel at, but why not hone and improve even more? And you're doing that. You excel so much with your tone, with your pacing, your vocal variety. I love how much you show us all how to do that better. Speak softer and then get gruff and then back off and then engage. And you do it with your body, with your facial expressions. 5 stars on the gestures and facial expressions always. Your delivery is solid. I think it's hard to find suggestions, but I'm going to focus on one that I also can obviously empathize with as a fast talker. I don't pause enough. I've improved greatly over the last decade, mostly because of you all. Thank you so much. And Zoom and here in the room. I think that occasionally, right when you're delivering something very funny, you speed up. And sometimes you don't enunciate as much because you're already laughing at what you're going to deliver. And so I would recommend that you let us hear those jokes. Land them, let us process it, enunciate. That's my biggest challenge for you is enunciate, especially land the words separately, especially when it's funny, so it's not jumbled and garbled, because maybe I just didn't have enough coffee, but especially at those funniest parts, sometimes I feel like, oh, that was funny and I caught half of it or something like that. So because you're giving us a conversational story, it's easy to lapse into going through it without enunciating. So work on nailing those consonants. Thank you so much, Steve. I can't wait to hear more. Great job. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Kate. And now we're going to hear from David Licata with our next evaluation. David.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and Marty. I want to salute Marty because I have evaluated him numerous times. And perhaps to his chagrin, I evaluate him when he's at work at Tops and give him lots of free advice. But he's been very cheerful about it. So I wanted to bring that out first. Now, the evaluation. Being a veteran Toastmaster, I started my evaluation early. I was tremendously impressed that a good 10 minutes before he got up to speak, he went over and checked with Len and got the microphone sorted out. That's no small thing, because if he was up here, had a fight with a microphone like I did last week, because I didn't push the button all the way, that's distracting, and that takes away from his speech. So a lot of credit for that right off the bat. And I always give him a hard time about not being too theatrical. So he pushed this lectern right out of the way, pushed the riser out of the way and got into it and gave us a broad gesture with a kick. I was impressed. That's theatrical. Good job. And the other tool he used from the start of his speech, he had a cheerful countenance. And that's part of being an optimist, a member of Optimist International. Part of the creed is to wear a cheerful countenance at all times and give every living creature you a smile, which ties in with our theme. So I'm trying to be empathetic. Now, I was on the alert because our Marty tends to over-explain sometimes. You did much better today, but I still want you to work on it a little bit. But your capacity for over-explaining things and stopping yourself and restarting because you feel the need to explain something that we really don't need. You had minimized that a great deal today, but there's always room for improvement. And this is so small and petty, I apologize. It's not a moose, it's a big deer. And a big deer is the heart of the forest, and that's why they get the name Hartford. How trivial is that? All right, he invited us. He invited us in with his use of humor. He was very clever about the description of the mascots. There was a whole article on the interwebby about how important mascots have become to insurance companies. And I really enjoyed that speech because we all have cars. We all learned something this morning. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, David. And our final evaluation is by Phil Russell online, evaluating Beth Banks. Phil.
Gibberish. Balderdash. You are not Sheldon on the Big Bang Theory, talking about dark matter or string theory. But I'll tell you what, you're a close second. You could replace him someday. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guests, I learned something about Beth. I loved it because to me, what she was talking about was gibberish and balderdash, because x squared minus 1, oh, they do that on the Big Bang Theory, and it drives me crazy because I don't have a value for x. Let's move on, but it was very funny to me. However, it would have improved because this is what you really need to do. David alluded to it in his evaluation. You need to double check that mic. Having been in several contests, the mic check at the beginning is crucial or it will mess you up. I had a hard time hearing, but that helps because I had to pay better attention. That number one, my hearing is bad. And number two, my attention span goes everywhere. That's why I like gibberish. I thought you did a great job on that, especially with your vocal variety and things like that. But that mic check, you got to fix that. That's the most important thing. It would help me a lot. I learned a lot about you. Number one, the master's degree in mathematics. Number two, the gibberish. I'm used to seeing you as a school teacher in control 24/7, not getting out of control at the Celtic Festival, in charge, Miss Boss. Don't mess with me when I'm in working. And if you have something to say, make sure you tell me correctly. That is who I know you as. Now I found out you have this other side of you. And the title caught my attention. I loved it. And it worked out. I thought it was a great speech. I do gibberish all the time. I talk in spur of the moment, off the cuff. To me, it just makes it for fun. And that was fun for me. I think it done good, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Phil. Mr. Timer, would you please give us a report on everyone's time?
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, all three evaluators qualified. Kate at 2:57, David with a little help from the buffer at 3:17, and Phil at 2:46. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mr. Timer. All right. You will have great empathy for me, Beth, when I tell you I learned math in Catholic school, and I still know my multiplication tables because if you didn't recite them properly, you got cracked over the knuckles with the nun's ruler. So I still know my multiplication tables. All right, now Sylvia is collecting the ballots. So I guess I will start calling for reports and then she can come up when she's free. Our first reporter is going to be our master grammarian, Mike Florio.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and I'm not sure if we have a guest or not. As the master, I was listening intently, so I have a few ahs and ums. We're slipping a little bit. Jason had 2. Mark Crane had 4 ums and 2 ahs. Yeah, you can work on it a little bit. Anne Marie had 2 ums. Sylvia had an ah. Thomas Helgwin had an Marty had 2 ahs. Kate Orr had 2 ums. Eric had 3 ums. So really not too bad. We did all right. Grammarian, I liked Boulder Dash. That was good. And when I started to pay attention, at least I grabbed 1, and that was 1 good word. Thanks, Phil. Take care.
And now we'd probably like to hear from our quiz master, Anne Marie. Anne Marie.
Good morning again, fellow Toastmasters. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have 10 questions. They're worth 10 points each, so please record your correct answers. And of course, you have to get 9 of them right to get an A, and at least 8 of them right to get a B. So pay attention. Question number 1, how old is Jackie's dog Maeve?
137.
130. No, in real time, how old is he? How many years?
16.
16.
16.
Excellent. What is the name of Jackie's childhood cat?
Brenda. I love that.
Brenda. How many people got that right? Raise your hands.
Katie.
Not too many, maybe 1 or 2. Wow, that was a trick question. Name Steve, name the name of, what is the name of Steve's speech?
Splitting headache.
Splitting headache.
Yep.
Excellent. Marty mentioned 3 important keys to negotiation. What were they? Number 1.
Price.
Narrow your carriers. Number 2. Compromise. And number 3. Anybody got that number 3? It's hard to hear.
Are we saying price again?
Agree on a price. Excellent. So you have to have gotten all 3 to get those 10 points.
All right.
All right. So the title of Beth Bank's speech is, or was,
Nutty Professor.
The Nutty.
Professor. Excellent. How many beds did Phil's cat have?
3.
3. Okay, excellent. Katie mentioned in terms of a recommendation for Steve's speech, what was an important recommendation that she gave?
Pronunciation.
Enunciation. Slow down and enunciate. Excellent. And Mark mentioned his dog. What was the dog's name and what was the response the dog had when he came home from the hospital? That's 2 parts worth 5 points each.
Hard question. Okay.
Maya. And, I mean, extreme.
Cling. Affection. Yeah. Extreme affection.
Extreme affection. Excellent. And Dave mentioned in Marty's speech, he gave a correction in terms of the Hartford Insurance, Marty mentioned a moose, but the correction was a
Dear.
deer. Excellent. And Phil, when talking about Beth's speech, gave a very important recommendation for the beginning of the speech that she should do what?
A mic check.
Check the mic. Excellent. Okay, add up your points and see if you're an A+ person or student.
Thank you, Anne Marie. I knew that would be an excellent quiz with you in charge. All right. I think our last report is the word master, but maybe we'll wait until the very end to get a word count, give everyone a chance to empathize and incorporate that word into their speech today. And I'd like to call Sylvia up now. Okay.
Okay, Jackie, what a great theme this morning. The title, do you apologize to your dog? And I was kind of, what is she talking about? And everybody has a love story, I guess, with their animals. So you're all good people, all good people. Jackie did do a little agenda for us here. That's all we need. Half a sheet of paper, very plain. We knew who was going to do what job. We knew what was coming up. And as I looked at this agenda this morning, 3 experienced speakers. Yes, Beth, you are an experienced speaker. You're really theatrical. I love it. And 3 great evaluators. And what a decision I had to pick which one I thought did the best job. Y'all did a great job. Kate did the sandwich approach, 2 great recommendations. Just to pause a little more, I need to do that also, and pronounce the words, announce them. Dave, great voice. You could tell you're a radio person. I like that. You paused right at the right times, and you did a sandwich approach and recommendations and how to improve. And also we say around here, less is more. Say less, more is done. Phil, I do have to say, I had the advantage of hearing you last night at the officers meeting, asking Beth, what would you like me to focus on? And she was telling you, if you learned something from me, you did well. It was kind of funny. And all 3 evaluators, which thank you to the speakers, had their evaluation forms to them. They had their titles, they had the time, they were very well prepared. The meeting today was run by a pro, Jackie, you could tell. I'm trying to see if I missed anything else. Oh, this mic. Please speak into this so the people at Zoom could hear. That's one thing I think we need to improve on. And other than that, what a great meeting. Okay.
Thank you, Sylvia. And now we can have our president get online. And since I have the results, I will speak into the mic and tell everyone who the winners in each category were, along with our president, who might have other announcements. Our best table topic speaker was Mark Crane. Mark, I have a ribbon for you. Our best evaluator was David Licata. And our best speaker this morning, Marty Johnston. Go home and pet your dog and remember how much you like them and why. And Marty, as best speaker, can pull the ticket for this morning. And Mr. President, I'm turning the lectern back over to you.
Hey, great job, everybody, today. Some fun speeches. Overall, at a good time. And we're all continuing to improve in our mission to improve our public speaking and communication skills.
May I interrupt you and read
Yes.
the winning ticket number? 345651. And someone in the room, someone won? Beth Banks won this morning. And now everyone's had a chance to use the words. So Mr. Wordmaster, would you like to tell us how we did today?
I would indeed. I heard a few people after Toastmasters use the word of the day, empathy. Anne Marie used it a couple times, as did Tom Heldwine. Beth Banks worked it into her speech. David Licata did as well. If anybody else used it and I didn't catch it, I'm sorry, have a little empathy for me. Everybody use the word empathy, and more importantly, have empathy for other people who are suffering. I'm going to add a little TechMaster report here because we seem to be reverting. A couple rules. This lectern mic always stays on. We never turn it off. Beth, thanks. You're not doing anybody a courtesy turning it off and having them have to come up here and turn it on, because quite frankly, they won't turn it on. I guess I'm the only person that can hear whether a mic's working or not. Number two, the wireless mic. Hang on. The wireless mic, which we've had for some 3-4 years, is the same one. The switch has 3 positions: off, standby, and on. Standby is good for nothing. The little red light comes on, but you're not transmitting anything, okay? So either off or all the way on, okay? I remind people of that even before the meeting, and they still only flip the switch halfway.
Red when it's not like all the way and red.
All the way is red, but standby is also red. So slide the switch all the way or it's not working. But quite simply, if you can't hear yourself coming out of the speaker to your right, it's not on. That's the time to stop and make an adjustment or to wave me over.
Members with hearing problems too, so it's important to reiterate that.
Exactly. And we have to be conscious of the people out in Zoom land. If you're not talking into a mic, they're not hearing it. Okay. Also, when you're Quizmaster, whether you're in Zoom or you're here and people are shouting out answers, don't hear the answer and move on to the next question. When you hear the proper answer, repeat it so that the people on Zoom can hear you. Okay. Pose the question when you get the answer, or even if you don't get the answer, say the answer before you go on to the next one. And finally, with regard to PowerPoints, we need to rehearse these a little bit better. It would have been so much more effective in Beth's speech if we had shown the first 2 slides and then we cut back to her for, which was the bulk of her speech, another couple minutes, and then go back to the final slide. Then we could see all your animation and your theatrics and your gestures as you're presenting the bulk of your speech. Also, I haven't found a way yet to both share the screen and show the timer, to have multiple people sharing the screen. I'm going to work on that. I don't know if that's a capability to Zoom. I have to test out a few things there, but that is a limitation. When you're sharing the screen for a PowerPoint, we can't see the speaker, which seems really stupid to me in a product like this, but Zoom is Zoom. So that's my 2 cents for today. Everybody step it up next meeting, and we'll go back to the president to close the meeting.
Thank you, Len. Any improvements we can have is a good thing. Thank you for the input. Did want to mention that the area contest was moved to February 11th. Our area director Jeanette is still looking for volunteers. Certainly email me and I can connect you or Kate, because it's going to be a joint area contest. The good news is our participants aren't competing against anybody else, so they just have to make time and they can move on to the division contest. So that's pretty cool for AM Lockport and our participants. In regards to Toastmaster next week, Jill Roaring is our Toastmaster. Hopefully she'll be better by then, but apparently the theme is Groundhog Day. Eric has done some research to figure that out. Speakers, Sylvia, Nancy Ferry. Eric tells me that Anne Marie is a speaker. Is that correct, Anne Marie? I didn't think so. I thought it was Eric. So
No, it's on the schedule that,
she's got a big X on the schedule I have, but we'll ferret that out.
No, I'm not a speaker. They changed the schedule.
Okay, that's what I thought.
it's on the website. That's how I got it. So it's still on there. So talk to Len. He's the one who set it up.
Yeah, okay, so we'll figure out who's the other speaker, but the alternate speaker is Carol, and we'll see if she's up for that if needed. That's all I have for today. You guys have a great day and look forward to next week.
Thank you.
Yeah.